The Last of Us is a game about two strangers from two different worlds growing a bond so strong that they're willing to risk their lives for each other. It's a story that forces them on a journey across the states in hopes for a cure. Its simple story, along with its bare bones mechanics and barren world, were necessary in order to allow the characters and the themes presented room to shine. Naughty Dog risked their position in gaming history, but through their talent, education, and overall love for the game and gaming industry, they made a one-of-a-kind experience. It's so unique they remade it 4 times, turned it into a show, and released a sequel in the span of 13 years. They also made an Uncharted movie with a sequel on the way, and we're somehow ending up with 3 seasons of The Last of Us. This video is about why the story and experience cannot be replicated. Long story short, other developers don't care enough. Because the game is so unique, it's impossible to discuss it without spoiling any aspects of the story. And its sequence of events that leads to the ending are what make it so good and controversial to this day. But knowing the behind the scenes is important to know why it's like this, so let's begin. The Last of Us is an immersive, interactive, cinematic experience. An IICE game. An ICE game. A nice game, if you will. In 2010, the gaming scene was filled with heavy hitters. Skate 3, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, Red Dead Redemption, Alan Wake, Limbo, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Amnesia, Mass Effect 2, Metro 2033, Heavy Rain, Dead Rising, Mafia 2, Splinter Cell Conviction, Super Meat Boy. Okay, pause. Naughty Dog most likely took inspiration in some of these games while creating The Last of Us. But on a more important note, they were willing to scrap a beloved franchise because they felt they were doing a disservice to the characters. Keep that in mind. After disrespecting Jack and Dexter for a few months, they decided to make a project into what we know as The Last of Us. At first it was called Mankind. And with only a few years left to the PS4's release, and rumors of bigger and more ambitious games like GTA 5 on the horizon, if Naughty Dog wanted to cement their status as the big dogs, they would have to do something big. And if they wanted to be remembered, they would have to do something that's never been seen before. Something in all their years of experience they would have never attempted to do. So what was it? They removed the jump button. Okay, technically Joel could jump, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The plan, I assume, was take what they learned from Uncharted 3 and turn it down several notches. Have a standard everyman be the main character and have him wear jeans and tees instead of being an armor-clad powerhouse, parodying the generic action hero of the mid-2000s. After expanding on his zombie story from his college days, Neil Druckmann and his now collaborators at Naughty Dog looked at films like No Country for Old Men and read books like The World Without Us in order to convey the realistic, abandoned, and barren world. Earlier in development, they pushed to give the player more choice, but the limit in the PlayStation 3's memory made them adapt the story into what it is now. They most likely adapted all the best choices that made sense into the ending. After defining the look of the clickers, the brutal combat, and the rules of the world, the most important step was to get the actors that can bring these characters to life. This is the most important part because every character, even the NPCs, serve a purpose. The writing paired with the improvisation of the actors and the flexibility of the director made the characters feel real. And engaging with the gameplay enhances this experience, either making you feel like the characters themselves or you're along for the ride, and sometimes a mix of both. The Last of Us uses gaming to tell a thought-provoking story along with providing social commentary on dynamics like gender roles, violence, tribalism, and growing old. Throughout its runtimes, the themes of responsibility, being in control, and achieving your goals using the cards dealt are shown. And the game asks, what if you do everything right and it still goes wrong? A question the player, developer, and characters should feel when engaging with the scarcity of survival items. The reason there are no bad guys in The Last of Us is because the writers make it so every character is doing the right thing for the situation they themselves are in. However, this is only for events that take part on screen. An example of this is Robert has Tess jumped when they are off screen. And when she tells Joel about it, she says he knows we're after him. Joel responds with he's smart. This is because Tess and Joel are a dangerous duo. So what would you do in Robert's position? The game puts every character in such a strong position against each other that if you like one character, you're going to like the other one. Or if you hate one character, you'll hate the other one, or you'll hate one and like one. It effectively makes every character so similar to the point that if you swap their backstories and roles, the story will play out the exact same way. The game is constantly trying to make you care about any character at every point, even the hunter you hit with the car. They do this through the use of violence every time. The first and obvious instance is with Sarah's death, but other subtle examples are within the environmental storytelling and the notes. They want you invested and immersed in the game so you can engage with the themes of responsibility, being in control, and achieving your goals using what you have. Using this immersive and realistic mechanics, it achieves that. But if the game doesn't make you empathize with any character, or you aren't immersed, you will have no investment to this game. And even if you find the gameplay fun, it will not save you from seeing the game poorly or not completing its story. Being immersed, it's easier to empathize and grasp what the game is trying to achieve. Having the game's audio be such a central part of the combat immerses you deeper into the experience, along with things like the flashlight and knowing when to use it, and the buddy system. Throughout the game, most players are literally looking out for Ellie, especially on first playthrough. They're trying to see what she's doing, some expect her to help, but all want to protect her. So much to the point, she hardly dies in the game. Ally deaths happen far less than main character deaths in this game, which is another parody on gaming. Players are meant to relate to characters through action and gameplay, with less emphasis on actual dialogue or backstory. So the synergy between player and character is important to the game itself being successful, which is why the game is rated M for mature. Because in order to understand what the characters are missing and going through, you need to understand how the real world works. In this game, society is flipped on its heads, and so are game tropes. They do this so it fits the themes of responsibility, control, goals, playing your cards, etc. So instead of bright, imaginative, and instant game mechanics, everything is slowed down to present it in a realistic way. Power-ups are pills and training manuals. Collectibles are things you can read and that reinforce the themes. Weapon upgrades require a physical workbench and gears. Even things like the backpack menu mechanic and healing all change the video game industry and enrich the grounded experience. It even makes sense for Joel to want to pursue these things, reinforcing immersion and player synergy. Traditional player urges to collect everything, punch and shoot their way through everything, being a ninja or skipping through sections were all taken into consideration when constructing the world and characters. Everything makes sense canonically for Joel to do these things. Or not. Maybe other games did it before. A lot of games tried to do it after. But Naughty Dog did it the easiest, for lack of a better word, with the best results. Joel was designed around a stereotypical man and the average gamer at the time. Most men work construction and used to play games after work on the couch. So in his first scene, if you played on a couch and were a man, it would have subconsciously aligned the player with Joel. And Sarah, because we were all kids once and we all used to fall asleep on the couch watching movies. But an important thing to remember in order to understand this story is we all remember being kids, but kids can never remember being adults. No video game series takes this level of detail into consideration to this day. The game uses its realism to do a social commentary in a way that novels and film just can't. The most obvious example being Ellie not understanding why the model is so skinny. The detail and environments tell a realistic story for those who wish to pay attention. As ambitious and effective as it is, the game would have done more if the PS3 wasn't lacking in memory. This will not only give players the opportunity to make in-game choices that can affect the narrative's ending, but the graphics could have been something closer to what we got on the remastered. The theme of control stands out the most because Fedra is losing it, humanity as a whole lost it, fireflies are fighting for it, and the infection literally takes control of humans. Joel no longer has control of his life, and Ellie never having control of hers put them on the same level and aligns the player with both of them, because the player wants control of their lives. Designing the characters was very crucial. Because the world is so barren and abandoned, every character had to be believable and required close attention. Everything from their names, ages, visual appearance, and backstory. Joel's veteran look and demeanor, accompanied by his carefully crafted intro, aligns players with him, especially if they played a lot of video games or read stories and watched movies. Ellie being sheltered aligns players that never played this game before, but have heard about it. That way they have to learn the rules of the game through her. And by the time you finally play as her, you know the rules and are confident in your abilities to get the job done, fully aligning you with Ellie. Because the game attempts to do so many things at once, a lot of people are confused as to what the game was actually trying to achieve. It's hard to describe this game and its goals because it's not just one thing. During development, there was a lot of improvisation. This means a lot of saying yes and they explored where those ideas would take us and they kept adding more to them. Because so many educated people who worked on and consumed different forms of media made this game, it can be easy to come to any one conclusion and feel like that's what the game is trying to say. Ellie and Joel are not father and daughter. They are barely good friends. They were with each other for a year and less than that, if you count Joel being in a coma or whatever. Even if I was with somebody every single second for an entire year, I could never consider them my child, nor will I consider them my father. The most I could do is assume that my father would act like this or my child would. However, we never actually see a real parent-child relationship in this game other than Sarah and Joel. So I would most likely be wrong. Joel was trying to protect this girl from the beginning. He took an interest in her the moment he laid eyes on her because he believes children don't belong in this world anymore. Ellie, more than anything, wants a mother because this world is so masculine and cruel. She never had any female energy to nurture her, and she doesn't know what it means to be a woman. Neither of these facts are stated but can be deduced using context from real life and the game. Ellie never tells her backstory to Joel, only at the end. After the first lie of the relationship, the truth is revealed and Ellie admits to being suicidal. Joel, remembering being a kid, can probably relate, and him knowing what loss is, he tries to tell her, this is nothing, it will get more difficult. He knows she's suicidal. Now every time she has jumped in harm's way makes sense, and it was not out of love. As Ellie said herself, I'm still waiting for my turn. So Ellie was the one who didn't like and trust Joel, which makes sense because she's a female and she's underage. Joel, being a part of the old world, knows better than to question down a teenage girl he barely knows. But he knows better than to dismiss her because everybody in her life already dismissed her. Ellie, being a stranger, has the right to know why she wasn't woken up and woke up in a hospital gown after the last conversation with him being, we should just turn around. This game is about the story, and the story is about the relationship and the things people do in those relationships. And the only way to grasp somewhat what the game is trying to say, you have to play the carefully crafted, immersive, interactive, cinematic experience. The ending is set up in such a way that you align with Joel automatically after you're building the relationship with Ellie and don't want her dead. As I stated, if Naughty Dog could have made their own game however they wanted, they would have given choices many times throughout the runtime. but the best or canon ending would be the one we got. So we don't want Ellie dead at this point, even if the cure was possible, even if it was instantaneous and everything goes back to normal 2013. But I'd like it on record that if the vaccine worked, Fedra wouldn't conversate with the Fireflies and would still kill them. And I find it funny that the Fireflies would be willing to talk to Fedra, but not the unconscious teen they're finna slaughter. Leave a comment what you think. We don't want Ellie dead in the hospital, and we're aligned with Joel. By the time we're in the car with Ellie, we question why he's lying to her, as she turns his back on him and he drives her away. I said, as she turns his back on him and he drives her away. So when we switch to Ellie feeling uneasy and confront him about the lie that we, the player, already know, we are aligned with Ellie, 100%. So we're like, okay, what was it all for? The point I'm illustrating is when the game works, it works so good you don't even know. Naughty Dog has educated and talented people who study and make innovative games that change the industry. The team studied ruins and history, geography, documentaries, and more in order to make believable treasure hunts in literal blockbuster games, and they did it 3 times by this point. Who else could take the successful leap to study Pittsburgh, human psychology, game psychology, and craft such a unique experience? As the creators said themselves, and I'm paraphrasing, somebody was gonna do it, why not be us? They also said that they like to make games that if they seen somebody else make, they would still want to play. And they got the job done all on a PS3. They use years of planning, improvising, knowledge, and experience, and most importantly, collaboration. The game says so much about human nature, all while looking like it's saying nothing at all, through its mechanics all the way to its ending. It manages to stack so many things on top of each other to the point that you could keep finding new meanings. It's art that imitates life, and it pushed the limits of the PS3 and what it takes to make a good game. A nice game. You can see its influence in other games and even other movies. None could come close to compare to the immersive, interactive, and cinematic experience. If you made it this far into the video, subscribe and leave a comment. If you didn't, I'm interested as to why. If you guys know any professionals in storytelling, game development, writing, or cinematography, please send this video to them. I want to know what they think about this game. The beauty of this game is that whatever conclusion the player comes to, it will make sense. But if you ever written a story, you know you have to write it with a goal in mind. Damn near impossible to write a story with an ending that could be anything. Like, you know how hard that's going to be to do in a game? So the creators clearly had a vision for the story and a plan for it. Now I'm going to discuss a bit about the ending and the future plans for part 3. Joel was never supposed to get to the hospital and Ellie was never supposed to make it out. But together they did both. Ellie and Joel were never that close, and it's Ellie's fault. She doesn't like authority, older people, or men. She also is aware the world is dangerous and can only trust children, same as Henry, Sam, Joel, and David did. Lying shouldn't end a relationship with a guy who was willing to put his life on the line for you. He had to lie because the closest thing she had to a mother didn't care about her enough to wake her up and have a convo before the surgery. Ellie couldn't handle that even if she was born in our time. As I said, if you don't care about any of the characters, the game wouldn't work as well as planned. The game immerses you to get you to care about any characters, even NPCs you don't see. Neil Druckmann stated that nobody cares about these characters more than us when met with criticism making a second game. And now I finally understand what he means. Bruce Straley and him thought this game wasn't fun, and they are correct, because if you don't get immersed into the PS3 game, the gameplay can't save it. Compared to fun games like Infamous or Assassin's Creed. Those are 2 games that you could jump in, by the way. They also thought it could end Naughty Dog's reputation, so they had to put their care somewhere. And it went into the ambitious story that was built off the backs of human literature, science, and art. Thought up of by one guy, at least one guy, in his college days, and executed by a team of like-minded individuals who grew up engaging and creating similar art their entire lives. And they had to get paid doing it. They want promotions, so they're going to put extra levels of, you know what I'm saying? So even if the game underperformed, the quality was going to be undeniable, and that's what makes it irreplaceable. Anything cut from the story is probably due to hardware limitations and would most likely take place in future installments or a reboot. I'm gonna go in more detail in my other Last of Us videos, but I want to leave you guys with a question. Since we're all in agreement that Joel had to save Ellie, and he didn't have to lie to her, and that lying is bad or whatever, how do you guys feel about Ellie not telling Joel that she's suicidal the entire time? Is that worse than lying? Because it's like he's putting, just imagine this. I'm putting my life on the line for this little girl, and she's suicidal the entire time. Like, anyways.